I watched the Microsoft press conference for E3. They like touched upon their next generation of console. They touched upon some of their expanding like Game Pass stuff, bringing the PC in, and they touched upon some of their like future streaming service. I say future, it's in beta soon or something, but like their future streaming service where you can stream your Xbox to wherever you are, or you can use our cloud service to play your console games in the cloud wherever you are. Um, and stuff like that, you know? So that's pretty fucking rad. You don't. So basically, you wouldn't need an actual console anymore to play those games. We don't know yet if that will apply, and probably not. I don't know. Well, maybe because of PC crossplay stuff, but like we don't. I think we don't know. They weren't super clear on all of the details, you know. And yeah, they've got like a year and a half to work it out, but uh, like it'll be across 4 generations, right? So that's Xbox, Xbox 360, Xbox One, and then this one presumably, right? 4 generations. So they are saying you'll be able to play all 4 generations on this cloud service. Fucking A. Great. That sounds really good because I frankly still consider my Xbox One to be a new console. I guess it's been a few years, but has it really been 8 years or, you know, like a normal generation? I feel like, I guess partly also because the Xbox One X, which is like the new, more powerful Xbox, only really just came out. And now there's this new one again. I'm like, I'm not spending money again to buy another Xbox. I've just bought this one a few years ago. Fuck that. So if they instead have some kind of cloud service where I can play any Xbox stuff, how would that work? That's the thing, because like I guess it doesn't really matter because I don't really own a lot of games on disc. Because nowadays, like since the Xbox One, I've pretty much there's one or two things I have on disc, but I try to buy things digitally. And it's because of this kind of future where, like, okay, if we're going to have some kind of cloud play stuff, you're fucked if you only have it on a disc. You really need that digital license attached to your account, right? So I should be fine with that stuff. There's a couple of games that I wouldn't be able to play otherwise, but it's mostly Halo stuff. And, you know, Halo Master Chief Collection, like, I own that on disc, so I guess I think I'll be. Will I be fine? How will I? No, I guess if I wanted to play it on PC, I'll have to buy it again or something. Oh no, but then aren't they giving away the multiplayer for free? Oh, fucking, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know how it's all going to shake out. It's so fucking complicated nowadays. But it's all interesting and it's exciting and it's new and everyone's talking about cloud services now and cloud gaming and, you know, as in streaming and stuff. And it does make me wonder that, like, are Shadow kind of shitting themselves? They had to know this was coming, though. They had to know that these other big companies were going to start doing this thing. Like, they're a bit slow to get rolling, maybe. And this little Shadow startup is a bit quicker, but, like, Shadow isn't that big right now. And they aren't doing enough to get themselves out there. Maybe they just don't have the money to do the advertising. Maybe they don't want to, because the last time they got a big influx of users, it was a fucking shit show with people waiting 2 weeks to have their accounts activated. And, you know, Shadow still doesn't work perfectly. And they are, granted, offering a very different experience to what all of the other companies are offering. All of the other companies are offering very controlled, very curated experiences, whereas Shadow is offering you get a fucking Windows PC, there you go. Like, it works as well as a fucking Windows PC does, which means you're going to have all kinds of problems, but that's Windows for you. And also you'll have some problems with how we virtualize it because it's, you know, blah blah blah. So, like, they still have that edge and they'll still keep a customer like me. But at the same time, one does start to see all of the other services that, granted, they have the ability to scale up those services and take a hit early on and stuff, which is why you're seeing like the Xbox PC Game Pass cloud gaming thing, whatever the fuck, I don't know. It's going to be like what, $10 a month or $15 a month or something, and that's like half of what I'm paying for Shadow for just the Windows PC. But I say just the Windows PC, that is a lot. And you know, they're slowly but surely putting the price up as well, because it used to be like 28 and now it's 30, whatever. So I want Shadow to stick around for many reasons, you know, not least of all because it would be a pain in the fucking ass if it went away. I had to get all my shit off my Shadow and then find a new service and sign up for that, and maybe it wouldn't be as good, or maybe I'd have some problem. I'm happy with Shadow. I hope they go from strength to strength, I do, but they're definitely going to see some real competition, and they really need to carve out what they are. Because hell, there's even direct competition. There was that cloud service I mentioned the other week. I forget what it was called, but it was very much like, it was basically Shadow, but they were also saying, hey, you can play your games, but you can also like do the video editing and rendering and stuff, which you can do on Shadow. It's just they don't market it that way, you know. But you can do it. Like there are so many things you can do on your Shadow VM that they don't say, that they don't point out, you know. And I don't know, they're going for the hardcore gamer crowd, right? They're not looking for people who want to do video rendering and things. They're like, yo, we're the ultimate cloud gaming service. Like, you're not though, because like your processors aren't the best processors, and yeah, you have an NVIDIA 1080, but this is, you know, we're halfway through 2019 now. That's not ultimate anymore, you know. Like, there's a new generation out. There's like RTX native cards, and I know that like not a lot of that stuff is necessarily all that important yet, or supported well yet, or needed. But like, if this time next year Shadow doesn't have the next generation of NVIDIA cards, or whatever else it is they're going to be doing, then they are slipping behind in a big way. And of course, you know, there's the little things like the fact that right now, as a baseline to the service, they only offer 256 gigabytes of hard drive storage, like no SSD. And you know, an SSD is something a gamer expects, you know. And they're hybrid drives, but whatever, they're hard drives. Fuck it, like, you know, hybrids have their advantages, but they're hard drives. So you get a hard drive, not even an SSD, and you only get 256 gigabytes, which is not enough for gamers. It's enough for a lot of people who just want to browse the internet and, I don't know, download some fucking, I don't fucking know, their iTunes or whatever. But if you're a gamer, and I say that like, I like, they're the ones advertising to this demographic, the gamers, right? Like, they're going to want to download their games and play their games, and games are big nowadays, you know? You can download 3 games and basically have that space filled, you know? So, like, 256 is not enough as a baseline. I know you can pay extra to get extra storage, but it should be included. It should be included. And you know, 12 gigs of RAM is not bad, but more would be good. Especially if they're bringing in this like dual screen thing, because, which by the way, you know, they haven't really brought in yet, blah blah blah. Because like, a dual screen thing suggests that you can play your game and do something else, and that means more RAM, right? If you're like, you can play your game that uses fucking 10 gigs of RAM, and then you can also run your browser, you know, run your Discord, run your streaming software, run everything else as well, because that's kind of what 2 screens are for, you know? You don't just have 2 screens and go, well, you can have the second screen, but you can't run anything because there's no RAM available. Like, so you will eventually butt up against that 12 gigs of RAM, especially if you're running certain games in certain configurations, you know, so the RAM is an issue. So, and you know, the CPU isn't the best either. It's I may talk about the 1080 as being like not the latest hot shit. I still like the 1080. I don't mind it. It's just you can't really market it as we have the hot shit if you're only running a 1080. Like, not even a 1080 Ti or whatever, just a fucking 1080. And even then, sometimes it's not even a 1080. Sometimes it's a P5000, which is kind of a 1080, but doesn't always behave the same as a 1080. So, you know. But the other issue is the processor, and that's the bottleneck right now. That's the thing that really tends to hold it back. It could be more powerful. It really could be more powerful. It's certainly no fucking Ryzen 7 or whatever, you know what I mean? So yeah, Shadow are in a funny position where, you know, they're a small company, they're burning through investor money, who knows how much they have left, who knows how much money they're taking in from customers, probably a fair amount, to be honest. But they have to start all of a sudden now looking at like, okay, we need to throw out everything we've got and get new hardware and expand at the same time. It's problematic. I mean, they've recently opened a new data center in America. You know, they're expanding to other countries and so on. But at the same time, like, all of the hardware that they're getting is already out of date when they get it. It's I can put up with it, you know, and a lot of people can. But then, for me, Shadow is filling that niche of, I can't run games very well because I have an old, not that good laptop. If I get Shadow, I can run games very well, but not like ultra super gamer well. But that's okay for me, because I don't need that right now, you know? But then, like, so what does Shadow do? Do they market themselves as the budget gamer experience, which is kind of what I feel it's like over time, as what people consider to be current is like, as Shadow falls further and further away from that, it becomes more and more of a, this isn't the ultimate gamer experience, this is the budget gamer experience. And then at some point you start to look at the price and you go, well, £30 a month for a budget experience is a lot of money. I mean, I'm sure that they're not like skimming huge amounts off the top there. I'm sure that, you know, their running costs, a small company, and the way they do what they do, I'm sure it's very difficult to you know, make ends meet. And I'm sure that they want the service to be as cheap as possible because they want to onboard people. But that is still quite a lot of money, especially when it's only a budget gaming experience. Like, hey, you can't run games. Here you go, you can run games pretty well on this. When you can get it to boot. Which, to be fair, it normally does boot. But there are always people who are having trouble with it, you know? And, yeah. It is what it is, you know? It's exciting, it's new. I think like the Shadow staff, like their heart is in the right place, and the people pouring money into it are smart. Like, there is an opportunity here. Shadow could do very well. It kind of has to like take a step back now and think, where do we want to go next? What do we want to be now? Where do we fit into this space now that there are so many new cloud gaming things appearing and direct competitors and stuff, and they have to look at their own service and what they can actually do with that, what they can actually do with what they have. I mean, their strongest feature, the thing that they have that most others don't have, is you get Windows, you know, and ignoring the other services that also provide that, like, that's their thing. They need to leverage that, you know. So yes, but it's going to be really interesting, and I have no interest in leaving Shadow anytime soon. Shadow does everything I need it to do. It doesn't always do it perfectly, and it's janky and problematic, and there are things that it should do well or at all that it doesn't. I mean, another example of what I would consider a gamer spec is surround sound. It doesn't support that at all. I mean, was 13 years ago when I built my first proper gaming computer, like I got 5.1 surround sound because that was just what you did, you know? And you played games like fucking Doom 3 and oh my god with the surround sound, and there's still plenty of stuff coming out that leverages surround sound, that leverages good surround sound. And if you're a gamer, you know, that's going to be something that you may be very interested in, you know? And certainly, like, it's a bit like talking about your screen and talking about contrast ratios and resolution and so on. Like, it's your auditory experience is perhaps often overlooked, but the company providing this to you should have thought about it, you know? They should have thought about it more than their customers have thought about it. And again, it's one of those strange things where I don't understand why they didn't do it, because you have to think, okay, they're running a virtual machine in a data center somewhere and they need to send everything to you. So obviously, to some degree, it's easier to send stereo than surround, right? But then how much more difficult is it to send surround sound? Like, it's just a few more audio streams coming down to you. And like that can be compressed reasonably well. I mean, you start to talk about compressing the audio, and the audio files prick their ears up and say, "Oh, what?" But like, you can get surround sound without too much issue. But perhaps the larger issue is that they maybe just don't have the hardware to support it. Maybe the hardware that they're using doesn't have any ability to output surround, you know. Maybe that's just it, and maybe that's their problem. They can't software support it, and that's problematic. Yeah, but then again, that's probably something they should have thought about when they invested in this hardware in the first place. So like lacking surround sound is a problem, and then another issue is they have a feature that they've had for a very long time, which granted they say is in beta, although weirdly it's also in beta, or a testing feature or whatever they call it, in the stable client. Like, if it's not ready, leave it in the beta. Doesn't make sense. But it's like the ability to send your microphone to your Shadow so that you can, you know, talk to people in the game that you're playing or in the Discord running on your Shadow or whatever. You know, it's important to be able to interface your microphone with your computer, right? And again, that's not a difficult thing to do. You're essentially just sending an audio stream to the server. And yet they fail again and again. The microphone doesn't work on my Shadow. It fucking doesn't work. And it doesn't work for so many people. And there's this convoluted, ridiculous guide about, change sample rates in Windows settings and all that kind of thing. It's like, why? And why doesn't it work well? What's going on here? What are they doing in the background that is so poorly implemented that they can't do something that simple? And I know, like, I sound like a layman, because I am a layman. You know, there's probably some Shadow developer out there going like, well, actually, it's very difficult, and we're working as hard as we can on it, and it's really difficult to implement, you know. But I don't really see how. All you're doing is sending an audio stream to the internet, like to a server somewhere. Like, this is 2019. We've got that covered, you know. That's not difficult. Loads of software does that. Loads of software. And to have this like amazing gamer experience service that costs 30 quid, 30 something is it now? I forget. 31, 30, something like that. A month that can't do something basic like that. So I have my problems with Shadow, and that's, you know, never mind all the other bugs that it has and all the other issues. But at the core, it's a wonderful service. When it works well. For me, again, you can't just like pop any game in and it'll more or less run at full spec. Especially if you want it to run at 4K or something. You're not going to get 4K 60 on A wide variety of stuff, certainly. But at its core, it is very good. And it has the potential to really go the distance. But they can't drop the ball on this. They have to be working really hard now and looking 12 steps ahead with what they're doing. They have to have a solid vision for what they're going to do, and they have to implement that vision, and they have to do it quickly. And when I say quickly, I mean within the next few years-ish. Things are really going to explode, and yeah, they want to really get on that. And I'm a loyal customer so long as the service makes sense and there isn't a better one out there. And so far, for what I want, there isn't a better one. So you're doing a good job, guys. But yeah, you know, I mean, this is just my video diary that I keep. I keep a private diary just for funsies. Maybe I'll put this video up. I know I look like shit because I'm getting into bed. But maybe I'll put this video up on the internet and just share my current thoughts after having seen the Microsoft press conference. That's kind of what brought this whole thing on, is I just saw the Microsoft E3 2019 press conference and seeing all this cloud stuff and where they're kind of going with it, and thinking ahead of like where consoles are going in the future. I mean, I thought this generation you'd have the physical console and then the PC stuff would be some cloud stuff, and that it would be the generation after that where we would see, like, you don't need the console anymore, full stop. But kind of looks like we're there now. Like, you can go either way. You want the console? Great. You want to just play the console in the cloud? You can do that too. So, yeah, the cloud space is really... If you were annoyed at hearing the term cloud a few years ago when people started using it, wait for 2020, because you're going to be hearing it a lot. Good night.